Hi, welcome to YOGALATES with SJ and this 30-minute YOGALATES workout. You don't need any equipment for this full body workout today, but if you would like to, of course, you can add in some kind of weights, maybe some dumbbells or wrist, ankle weights, anything you feel to. We're going to start here in standing, just bringing the feet about hip distance apart, finding a neutral pelvis, bringing your mind to connect into the core muscles, belly button to spine, shoulders away from the ears. Then you're pressing the palms to the back wall, and then you are rounding forward as you press the hips back to that back wall, lengthening the arms forward and then drawing back up, finding length as you press the palms back. So we are continuing with this. All the movement here is coming from the hips. The hips are pressing to the back wall, finding a flat back as you lengthen the arms forward, and then you are drawing all the way up from the pelvic floor, zipping up through that center line, belly button to spine, to kind of bring you back up to lengthen the spine again. So we want to have the head in the same line as the back. You've got length through the back of the neck. You are not locking out through any of the joints. You're not locking the elbow joints out, finding softness there, and you're not locking those knee joints out. We are pressing the hips back, lengthening the arms forward, and then drawing back up, pressing the palms to the back of the room and connecting into the back of those arms. Making sure you're breathing and finding one more here, and then we're going to stay here, and you're going to start to sweep the arms up. So we have the palms facing up, and then you're opening the arms out to the side and then drawing all the way back around again. Elbows come in close, and then lengthening the arms forward and opening the arms out and continuing with this. So keeping the shoulders away from the ears and keeping that connection of the belly button to spine. You've got a neutral pelvis, so we're not putting the tailbone under, and we're not popping the tailbone back. You're keeping a very, very natural curve of the spine. You're keeping everything flowing and nice and freely here, connecting into those arm muscles, the shoulders. Finding one more here, and then we are coming all the way down to a forward fold, releasing here, and then rolling the spine vertebra by vertebra to come all the way back up. Then we're staying here, and you are bringing the right toes out to the side, and the right arm comes out, and then you are lengthening the fingertips up towards the ceiling, and then you are bringing the arm out, palm facing up, and bending the elbow, and fingertips point up towards the ceiling. Keeping everything lifted up here so you aren't collapsing over to one side or the other. You've got a connection of core and a neutral pelvis, not locking out through that supporting knee on that left side, and you are finding a little bit more length each time. Awesome. And bringing your hands together in prayer. We're going to do some little circles, so tiny little circles, lifting the toes up off the mat, and you are circling backwards. All of the movement is coming from the hip here, and then you are circling forwards, and just a few little circles, keeping that lift here, and then curtsy back. You're starting to bring the toes behind and then lifting back up, and then finding a little lift, and then dropping back down into your curtsy, and then coming back up, lifting out to the side, and then lowering the knee down, curtsy lunge, and then lifting up, keeping the hips square to the side edge or the front edge of your mat. And we're staying here, and we are going to come straight over to the other side. So just finding maybe a little forward fold, and then we are coming over to that left side. So the left toes are connected, and you are opening that left arm out, and then you are bending the elbow, and then lengthening fingertips up towards the ceiling. Trying to keep your shoulders relaxed here, and keeping your weight through that center line so you're not bumping the hips over to the right, and you are just keeping that nice neutral pelvis. Awesome. And then we are going to do that lift here. So we're going to stay here now, bringing the hands together in prayer, and you are lifting the left toes up off the mat, little circles, Tiny little circles in one direction. All of the movement is coming from the hip, and then you are circling back the other way. Keeping your leg lifted as high as you can, and then we're starting to curtsy back. So you're bringing the toes to come back behind you, and then lifting back up, and then bringing the toes up off the mat, straight out from the hip, and keeping those hips square, making sure that you aren't rocking around through the pelvis. Amazing. And staying here. We're going to start to bring the hands onto the hips, and you are going to bend through the left knee, and then you are straightening the leg to come up. So pressing up as you tap the toes, and then bending back down through that left knee, and the hips go straight back. You've got a core engagement. You've got a flat back as you come down into that bend of the knee. The right leg is straight, but you aren't locking out the right knee here. The hips are square, and you are connecting into the core and keeping a neutral of the head, so the head is in that same line as the rest of the back. Then finding one more, and then we're going to stay here. We're going to start to lift the toes up off the mat, and you are starting to circle from that hip. So directly out from the hip, you are finding little circles in one direction, and lifting up nice and tall, feeling like you are being drawn up from a string, pulling you up towards the ceiling, then circling in the opposite direction. So tiny little circles, and breathing, making sure you're not holding your breath, not locking out through. That's beautiful, you guys. Let's come all the way back through center and take a forward fold, letting the arms float down, letting the head release towards the floor, and allowing a little bit of movement into the head and neck, anything that feels good, and then rolling the spine, coming all the way back up, releasing the shoulders away from the ears, and let's come straight over to the other side. So we're going to be bending the right knee, and we are then lengthening up as you start to tap the toes of the right foot, and then bending through that knee again as the hips go back, and then lengthening back up. So keeping this going, and again, just making sure that you're not locking out through that supporting leg. So we've got a kind of a hinge over to that right side. The hips are going straight back, but you are also keeping your weight quite even through the center line at the same time. And then we are going to stay here, and we are finding the toes lifting up and circling, tiny little circles straight out from the hip on that right side. So we are working through the hip rather than thinking about moving the foot around, using that hip and the outer thigh to move this, and then circling in the opposite direction if you haven't already, keeping a connection of the core, and shoulders are relaxed, jaw is relaxed, and awesome. Let's release it. All the way down, forward fold, and then walking the fingertips over to the right side, keeping the hips lifted up high, and then walking the fingertips over to the left side. And head is heavy, coming back through center, and then rolling the spine vertebra by vertebra, coming all the way back up to standing. We're going to bring the feet about hip distance apart, and you've got your left hand on the hip, and you are going to start to press the right palm back, then flipping the palm, elbow comes in close, and you have got the hand facing in toward you as the fingertips press up towards the ceiling. Then you're flipping back again. So it is a little rotation through the wrist. You're pressing the palm back, and you're keeping the elbow locked in to the side waist the whole time, and you are finding a little bit of lift up through the shoulder as you press those fingertips up, and the palm faces inward, and you are working through the back of the arm, the tricep as you press back, and we are also working through the shoulder, the bicep here. Beautiful work. Now you're starting to step the right foot back, and you are coming into a slight forward hinge, starting to press the palm back and pulsing. Tiny little pulses, keeping your hips square here, and you've got a soft bend into that front knee. And really finding that core engagement here, neutral pelvis, little pulses, keep it going, breathing in through the nose and out the nose or mouth. Awesome, let's add on to this. So we're gonna start to drop that bottom knee. So the knee drops down, you're coming straight down through the center and you're pressing the palm back as you start to lengthen up, and you are flipping the wrist and palm faces inward as you start to drop down into your lunge. So again, we want to have a slight forward hinge, but you are also coming down straight down the center. So we're kind of not so much pressing forward or back. We're staying very much through that center line, and you are keeping your knee not going forward of the toes. So that front knee wants to come to be directly in line with the ankle. Awesome, let's stay here, guys, and we are going to come straight on over to the other side. Maybe just finding a little forward fold here before doing so. Taking a break, taking a cleansing breath in through the nose and out the nose or mouth. And then rolling the spine, coming all the way back up. And let's bring those feet in to be hip distance, and you are pressing the left palm back, flipping the wrist, and then bending through the elbow as you press the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Continuing with this, as you do so, seeing if you can relax into the jaw, the shoulders relaxing down. You are keeping a neutral pelvis and everything is staying very still. So seeing if you can keep that connection of core to hold you still here as you work into the shoulders, the arm, the front of the arm and the back of the arm. Awesome. Let's come to find that step back of the toes, coming to that little semi-lunge here, hinging slightly forward, pulsing with the arm. So you're pressing the back of the arm back and tiny little pulses. Keeping connected here into the core, and a few more, working into the back of the arm, shoulders are relaxed. Now let's drop down into our full lunge here. So you are coming into that stationary lunge, just lowering the back knee directly down as you start to flip the palm, fingertips point up towards the ceiling with the bend into that elbow. And then as you straighten that back leg, you're pressing the palm to the back of the room. This is also really good for the balance. You might want to keep your eyes onto something that's not moving to help with your balance here. If it's a little bit too much, you can always just have both hands onto the waist as well, or onto the hips, rather than working into the arms with some of these. It's definitely challenging. Awesome. And then just starting to come forward, straightening both legs and letting the pelvis come towards the ceiling as you bring the head and the belly towards that front leg. Pressing the heel down, doesn't have to come all the way down, but just finding length through the back leg and the glute here. And then let's switch it over to the other side, stepping the right foot back. And then you are coming all the way forward, and we're going to come down onto the mat, coming to a child's pose. So bringing the big toes together, the knees to about hip distance, sitting the pelvis back towards the heels, and then you're shifting forward and then rounding the spine as you bring the pelvis back towards the heels. Then you're drawing forward again and coming to a neutral spine, and then you are rounding the spine as you start to tuck the tailbone, sitting back towards the heels, and then shifting forward slightly as you find that flat back. Next time you come forward, we're going to stay here. You're going to come down onto your right forearm, and you're going to bring your left leg long behind you. You're finding a core engagement here, and you're starting to lift and lower, just tiny little pulses up and down of that left leg, working into the glute. So rather than thinking about moving the leg or moving the foot up and down, working through that glute on the left side, tiny little pulses. And breathing, keeping your core engaged, keeping length through the back of the neck, and then we're coming all the way to sit back towards the heels, keeping the toes tucked, and then you are finding a neutral spine. And you are then dropping the belly and then untucking the toes as you start to come down to your child's pose. Forehead comes down onto the mat and lengthening the arms forward, taking some deep breaths here in through the nose and out the nose or mouth. And then we're just bringing the knees out a little bit wider, and you are starting to come forward and then rounding the spine as you start to sit back towards the heels, lengthening the arms forward, forehead comes down to the mat, and then drawing back up, coming back to that neutral again, and then you are rounding the spine as the chin comes towards the chest and you sit back towards the heels, keeping a rounding into that low back, and then inhale as you shift forward, pressing the hips forward, finding a flat back, and then coming all the way back again, keeping that rounding of the spine as you sit back towards the heels. Awesome job. And then taking a moment here, just starting to come all the way forward, and then you are coming to press the elbows directly back as you come to a little press up. And then you are pressing the hips back towards the heels, and then you're shifting forward and elbows go straight back, finding that core engagement as you find your press up, and then you are sitting back towards your heels. So we're just flowing with this. You're finding that press up as you come forward, and then you are finding some length through the whole spine as you come back. We're going to come over to the other side with that little pulse up. So you're dropping down onto your left forearm, and then you're going to just start to make those little pulses up and down with that right leg. Tiny little pulses working into that glute, breathing in and breathing out, keeping your core engaged, and the hips are directly in line with your mat. And then we are coming all the way to a mermaid. So you're bringing your left shin to be in line with the side edge of your mat. You're starting to lift the hips up as you sweep that right arm all the way up, opening the heart up, lifting the hips, and then lowering the hips back down. Pelvis releases. Inhale as you sweep up. Exhale as you lower down with control. Inhale, coming up, pressing the hips up, finding length through the side waist, and then releasing. Keeping this going. We want to really find a little bit more length out the fingertips each time that you come up, and you are pressing into that left hand and keeping the shoulders away from the ears, lifting, lifting, lifting. Inhale, opening the heart towards the ceiling. Exhale, release. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, floating down. Flowing freely with this. And then coming all the way down. Taking a twist here, bringing the left hand to come to the right thigh and gazing over that right shoulder. Taking a deep breath in and exhale, coming all the way down. We're coming onto the left forearm, and then you are starting to straighten that top leg out, and then you are sweeping the right arm up and over, and you are bending through the knee, placing the leg back down as you bring the heart to face towards your mat. Gaze is following. So we are pressing out through the heel of that right foot, almost as though you're trying to press something away from the body, and the foot is in that same line as the hip. You're keeping a nice core engagement here, and you are rotating the body down towards the mat as you start to bring your right arm out, and as you start to come back, bending through the knee and then pressing the heel out, finding length. So we're getting some stretch, we're getting strength, we're getting everything here in this workout. Taking a break here, guys, coming down onto your forearm in that twist. And then you're starting to open the heart towards the sky, and then we are coming all the way up and over and switching over to the other side when you're ready. And we are finding that set up again. So we've got the right shin in line with the edge of the mat, and you're starting to lift the hips up as you sweep that left arm up, and then you are lowering the pelvis back down with control. Inhale as you sweep the arm up, lifting the hips. Exhale, lowering back down. Inhale, sweeping up and lifting. Exhale, lowering down. Keeping this going, floating and flowing freely as you find a little bit more length up each time without locking into that right elbow. So we want to Really find our weight even through the whole body, keeping your core engaged and lifting, 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 and then slowly releasing back down. You're taking that twist here, so bringing the right hand to come to the outside of the left thigh, gazing over that left shoulder. Inhale, lengthening up a little more. Exhale as you unravel. Coming back through center and dropping down onto that right forearm. And we are starting to press the top leg out, and then we are rotating the heart center towards the mat as we lengthen that top arm and continuing with this. Finding that rotation and finding that strength out from the outer thigh, the hip, and the glute. Not locking out the knee joint. So we are using the muscles through the glutes and the legs to drive this and keeping that core engaged. Breathing. And you are coming all the way down into that twist, bringing the forehead onto your forearm. Deep breath in and full breath out. And then starting to softly gaze up and opening the arm out, opening the heart towards the ceiling and coming all the way back up. We're going to come. Now we are coming to a seated position. You're bringing the arches of the feet together, the inside of the knees come together. You're lengthening the arms forward, shoulders away from the ears, sitting up tall out of the sit bones, starting to bring the belly button back to the back body as you roll the spine down and then reaching the arms all the way up, circle sweep the arms all the way around and then coming all the way back up, lengthening up. Inhale, sweeping the arms. Exhale as you bring the fingertips forward, rolling down vertebra by vertebra, keeping this going. If it's too much to do a full roll down, guys, you can always just do a quarter or a half. So just coming back a little bit and then coming back up again. And we are keeping the core engaged the whole time. You are squeezing those inner thighs together and you are keeping that engagement through the core. Shoulders are away from the ears. This time coming back to a halfway point, keeping that belly button to spine, starting to bring the hands to come to the right and then twisting and bringing those hands to the left. Then you are coming back through center as you inhale, coming up, exhale, interlacing the fingers and then starting to come over to twist right. And then you are doing a figure eight and coming up and over to the left and then back over to the right. So we are continuing to just find that little rotation here and just keeping softness into the elbows, keeping the core engaged. You are just hinging back that little bit here. So you're keeping connected to the core the whole time. If it's too much, guys, come up a little bit higher. So we don't want to bring any tension anywhere else. We're using the core. We are breathing. Amazing job. And staying here, reaching the arms forward, and then we are sitting up tall, and then we are tucking the tailbone as you come back. So just finding that lift up and then lengthening back again. Then you're starting to twist to the right, come back through center, twist to the left, come back through center. Inhale, finding that lift again, reaching the fingertips forward. Exhale as you hinge back, twisting right. And inhale back through center and twisting left. Inhale back through center. Inhale, sitting up tall. Exhale, coming back and twisting right. And back through center and twisting left. Back through center. Inhale, sitting up tall and reaching the arms. Exhale, circle sweep the arms around, reaching those fingertips forward as you start to roll the spine, coming all the way down, reaching the arms up and circle sweep the arms all the way around. Staying here. We are bringing the feet to come in close together. You're starting to lengthen the right leg and draw it in, and then the left leg and drawing it in, using your core muscles, lowering the foot down, and then you are opening the knees out and then using those inner thighs to close the knees back in, and then reaching that right leg and drawing it in, bringing the foot down and coming to the other side. Left leg goes long and using your core to draw the knee in and then placing the foot back down, opening the knees out and then closing those knees back up, and then starting to bring the right knee in, lengthen the leg out and draw the knee in, and then placing the foot down, and then the left leg comes in and lengthening it out and drawing it back in and placing the foot down, opening the knees and squeezing in as you bring the knees together, and continuing here to find that core engagement, belly button to spine. We are keeping that core engagement as you lengthen the leg and keeping that engagement as you bring the knee in, and then you are opening those outer thighs to squeeze out and then inner thighs to squeeze in, and lengthening the right leg, draw it in, lowering the foot down, and then the left, draw it in, lengthening out and bringing the foot back, and then opening the knees out, closing the knees back in. Awesome. And then we are going to stay here, and you're going to start to bring your right leg up and bringing the hands behind the head. You're keeping your core engaged, and you are starting to just make very small circles straight out from the hip here. We are circling tiny little circles in one direction, keeping your core engaged, and then circling back the other way. So trying to keep the pelvis very still and stable, closing the ribs and finding openness across the front side of the shoulders, breathing deeply in and fully out. And then you are bringing the foot all the way down and switching sides, lengthening that left leg long. Toes slightly turned out, and we are starting to circle in one direction, tiny little circles here. And breathing, finding those deeper breaths, keeping your belly button to spine, keeping the tailbone lengthened down, and we are keeping the back of the shoulders connected. And then we are starting to go back the other way. When you're ready, circling back, taking those very deep breaths in through the nose and out the nose or mouth. And then you are bringing the foot to come back down onto the mat. You're bringing both knees in towards the chest, and then you're starting to lengthen the legs up towards the ceiling and bring the arms down by your sides. And we are starting to lower the legs down, so gluing those legs together, lowering down, then bending the knees, drawing the knees in towards the heart center, and then lengthen the legs back up and lowering back down. So it's a very small leg lower here. You're keeping a core connection the whole time, belly button to spine, ribs are closed, and you are maintaining that connection as you draw the knees back in towards the heart center, and continuing here. Keeping this going, and we are keeping the tailbone lengthened down and keeping the ribs closed. And then we are starting to keep the legs lengthened up, and then you're dropping the back of the heels towards the pelvis, bringing the arms out a little bit wider. We're going to start to glue those legs together as you start to lower the legs over to the right side, and then straightening the legs out, and then drawing back through center, and then coming over to lower the legs to the left side, lengthening the legs out, and then bending and coming back through center and coming right. And lengthening the legs out and drawing it back in, and then coming to the left and straightening the legs, and then bending, coming back through center, keeping this going. We are keeping everything else lengthened out. We are not rocking around in the pelvis or the back. We are finding that kind of twist through the waist here, and we are keeping the tailbone lengthened out, keeping the core engaged and maintaining that connection of core the whole time as we work into the side waist, into the oblique muscles, and also the low abs too. Making sure you're not holding your breath, so you are freely breathing, and inhale as you come over and exhale. Let's stay here on the left side, just dropping the legs down and finding a nice twist here. So you might let the head roll over towards the right, just taking some really deep breaths in through the nose and out the nose or mouth as you relax the legs down. And then we are going to start to engage into that core again and drawing the legs all the way back through center, and then starting to lower the legs together over to the right side, keeping a bend into the knees as you inhale. Draw the knees back in, and then lowering the legs over to the left side, and inhale, coming up through center. Exhale as you lower over to the right. And inhale, drawing back through center, and exhale, lowering over to the left, and inhale, coming back through center, and exhale, starting to come over to the right with control. And then you are staying here, releasing the legs down, finding that twist. Letting the arms come out wide and relaxing down. Maybe rolling the head over to face the left side. Taking a deep breath in and a full breath out. And then when you're ready, we're coming all the way back and hugging the knees in towards the heart center, and then finding a little happy baby here. So just taking hold of somewhere on the legs, maybe behind the knees, or reaching up and grabbing hold of the outside of the feet, and starting to use your arm strength to gently pull down and bringing the knees about shoulder width apart. Any kind of movement here that feels good. Maybe you might bend and straighten into the legs, or you might stay in stillness, maybe a rock from side to side. Cleansing breaths here, in through the nose and out the nose or mouth as you start to unwind. Starting to relax down as we come to the end of our workout today. It was amazing to have you join me for this workout. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have an amazing rest of your day or night, whatever it is that you happen to be doing. See you again soon.